All right, we're going to look at the kidney model. The first thing that we want to look at is the difference in our regions. The kidney is divided into regions called the cortex and the medulla. The cortex is going to be the portion that is along the outside here. Okay? You can see it in kind of the light color with the little blood vessels. A portion of it dipping into the medulla right here, which I'll get back to. Over on this portion of the model, that the cortex is all of this region that is above these blood vessels. So this is all cortex. Now, a medullary area is always going to be in the middle. So if we're looking at this portion of the model, that it's going to include all of these seashell-shaped structures and then all of this right in here. Okay? So all of that would be medulla. On this portion, the medullary area is everything below this line of blood vessels. Okay? Now then, to get a little bit more specific, let's come back over here. That the cortex, there's really only one structure that we're going to be specific about, and that is what we call the renal columns. The columns are where sections of the cortex dip down into the medullary area. They're between these seashell-shaped structures. So you can see one here, you can see one kind of in this region. Now then, within the medullary area, we have some additional structures. First, you can see the nice obvious seashell-shaped structures. Those are called the renal pyramids. The renal pyramids are going to have portions of your nephron coming down into it. At the very tip of the renal pyramids is a region that we call the renal papilla. I kind of like to think of it as being like candy corn, and so the renal papilla is kind of like the white tip on there. Now then, urine is going to drain from these into these structures called your minor calyces. Then you will have several minor calyces that will empty into what we call major calyces. The major calyces then all empty into this widened region out here called your renal pelvis. The renal pelvis is the portion where all of the urine is going to collect before it actually exits the kidney via the ureter. You can see on our model we have the very beginning of your ureter right along here. Now, if we're looking at this portion, that here is that renal pyramid. We said cortex, we said medulla, but our functional unit in the kidneys is what we call a nephron. And this all in here is a nephron. That you'll actually have several nephrons that will empty into this structure right here that is called a collecting duct. Collecting duct is exactly what it sounds like. It collects little drops of urine that were created by those nephrons. Now, if we look closer at the nephron, we can see the beginning portion right here referred to as your glomerulus and the glomerular capsule. So we want to look at a blow up of this portion of your nephron, which is right over here. The wad of capillaries is the portion we call the glomerulus. Okay? It's going to be carrying the blood in via this afferent arteriole, and this then is where filtration of the blood will occur. That most of the blood will actually empty from these capillaries. You can see how they look like they have been emptied into this portion here, which is called our renal capsule. The renal capsule collects all the filtrate from that blood, and then we'll send it along to the next section of the nephron called your proximal convoluted tubule, aka the PCT. We're just seeing the beginning of it right here. That it's going to move on along, and eventually it's going to reach this portion, which is called our distal convoluted tubule, aka the DCT. That if you look really closely, you can see the DCT is actually abutting against this afferent arteriole. The afferent arteriole has some specialized cells here called macula densa cells that communicate with some specialized cells in the DCT called the juxtaglomerular cells. That this is going to help the body determine whether water is going to go out as urine or stay in the body. That's why this entire structure is referred to as what we call the juxtaglomerular apparatus. You're going to learn more about that in detail in physiology. So that is where we will stop for now, and good luck in your anatomy class. Okay. One done.